Okay, let's get into it. We're looking at a city that basically changed the world, a place that became the blueprint for, well, modern city life as we know it.
We are. We're talking about Manchester, England, back in the 18th and 19th centuries.
It's just such a powerful story. It's really about what happens when you get geography, brand new technology, and a huge amount of human ambition all colliding in one place.
Exactly. We're going to unpack how this relatively small market town just transformed into a global powerhouse, seemingly overnight.
And the scale of that change is just, it's hard to wrap your head around.
It really is.
Before the late 1700s, Manchester was small. I mean, what, under 30,000 people?
Barely. And then just a couple of generations later, by 1850, that number had soared.
To over 300,000, it became this undisputed international capital for textiles. They even gave it a nickname.
Cottonopolis.
Cottonopolis. So our mission today is to figure out what exactly allowed that to happen, and maybe more importantly, what the real human cost of all that progress was.
And the story, it really starts with the ground itself, with geography. It's almost like the city had this perfect, almost improbable combination of natural resources.
Right. Why Manchester? You know, London was the capital, Bristol was a massive port. What made this town in the north the spot?
Well, Manchester sits in this big basin, and it's surrounded by hills.
Okay.
And that specific setting gave it two critical things. First, the immediate power source. You have several rivers, like the Irwell and the Medlock, and they flow really quickly through the area.
So water power.
Crucial water power for those very first textile mills.
Yeah.
You didn't even need to invent anything to get started. The energy was just there.
So that river access gave them that immediate zero-cost energy to get the first wheels turning.
And that wasn't even the most surprising part. The climate itself was a key factor.
The weather.
The air there is naturally damp, and that turned out to be perfect for processing cotton. Yeah, because the moisture in the air stopped the delicate cotton fibers from snapping while they were being spun. It was like a natural environmental match for the product.
But water power on its own is... It's a bit temperamental, isn't it? It depends on the seasons. If you're building a global empire, you need something that can run all the time.
You need industrial muscle.
Yeah.
And they had it. Right next to the city was the huge Lancashire coal field.
Ah, okay, the fuel.
Massive coal deposits. This was the essential fuel for the steam engines that would power the later, much bigger phases of the revolution.
And I'm guessing the flat land around the city made it easy to move all that coal.
Exactly. Building roads and later canals was much easier. Plus, you've got the port of Liverpool just down the road.
Which means raw materials, all that raw cotton coming from the Americas, could get to the factories really quickly.
That whole combination, water for the early mills, coal for the big expansion, and easy transport to the sea, it made Manchester the perfect spot for this kind of mass manufacturing.
So now that we know why it was there, let's talk about the product that defined it. Cotton. This is what turned Manchester into a powerhouse.
And they already had a head start, with regional textile traditions. So there was already a skilled workforce.
But what's really amazing is how fast the new technology took over. They moved on from spinning by hand and almost instantly.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about machines like the spinning jenny and the power loom.
And these weren't just small improvements.
Not at all. These inventions dramatically accelerated the whole process. It was exponential.
So one worker with a power loom could suddenly do the work of what?
10, maybe even 20 people working by hand.
Wow.
And that explosion in production is why it got the name Cottonopolis.
Oh.
By the middle of the 19th century, Manchester wasn't just a center for the cotton trade, it was the international center.
And the finished cloth was being shipped everywhere.
All over the world,
Yeah.
across Europe, the British Empire, even as far as Asia.
And the look of the city literally started to change. Mill owners started putting up these huge, tall brick buildings to house all the new steam-powered equipment.
That functional, almost imposing architecture became the new face of the city.
But as you said, those first mills had one big limitation.
They had to be right next to a river for the water wheels.
So the real turning point was getting power that you could put anywhere.
Precisely. The moment they could build away from nature's limits, that breakthrough was James Watt's improvement to the steam engine.
Right. There were steam engines before, but his was different.
He made it rotary and, crucially, consistent. So steam power became this constant, reliable source of energy. It could run hundreds of machines at once without a river's fluctuations. No more worrying about a drought in summer or ice in winter.
So the factories could move
Right
into the city center, wherever the labor was.
Yes. And as coal became the main fuel, the sky itself changed. Huge chimneys started to dominate the skyline, just pumping out black smoke.
And production could just keep going.
Day and night, all year round. It was continuous.
And that innovation created more innovation, right? These complex machines needed constant work.
Absolutely. This created whole new industries. You suddenly needed specialized heavy engineering firms, companies whose only job was to build and maintain the machines that powered Cottonopolis. It created its own tech ecosystem.
So the city is making all this stuff, but moving it is the next big problem. If the machinery is the heart, then the infrastructure must have been the circulatory system.
That's a great way to put it. And that's where canals come in. We always talk about the steam engine, but canals were just as revolutionary for logistics.
And the first big one was the Bridgewater Canal in 1761.
Right. And this wasn't just some convenient waterway. It was designed as an economic weapon.
What do you mean?
It was built for one reason:
Oh,
get coal from the Duke of Bridgewater's mines directly into the city.
yeah.
And in doing so, it cut the price of fuel
By how much?
by 50% immediately.
Wow, half price overnight. That must have given Manchester a huge advantage.
An unbeatable one. Other industrial towns were still using slow, expensive wagons on roads. The sheer weight a single narrow boat could carry was unmatched.
So that success must have sparked a building boom.
It did. It led to a whole network of canals connecting Manchester to other towns and, most importantly, to the sea.
The canals became the city's arteries, just constantly filled with these narrow boats pulled by horses, carrying cotton in and textiles out.
And you can still see the evidence today. Those massive stone warehouses built right on the water's edge, that's where they stored everything before shipping it out. The whole city was built around water transport.
The canals are steady, not fast. And in 1830, something much faster arrived.
The next great leap, the railway.
And Manchester had the world's first intercity passenger railway.
Not just a little factory line, but a proper public route between two major cities.
It connected Manchester to Liverpool.
To the port, exactly. And steam locomotives could carry way more than a canal boat, but the real revolution was speed.
How much of a difference did it make?
Well, a trip that used to take a whole day for a businessman could now be done in a few hours.
And that speed must have changed everything. Fresh food could get to the city faster. Raw materials could be ordered on a much tighter schedule.
It streamlined the whole process. And the success of that one line kicked off what we call railway mania.
A frenzy of track building across the country.
Massive investment, thousands of new jobs in engineering, maintenance, construction. The railway stations themselves became these grand symbols of progress.
Okay, so that's the story of progress. Amazing growth, huge wealth, incredible speed. But now we have to look at the other side of the coin, the social cost.
This is where the numbers tell a pretty heartbreaking story.
That population explosion from 30,000 to 300,000.
It happened because thousands of people were fleeing the countryside looking for factory work, and the city was it was completely unprepared for that flood of people.
The infrastructure just buckled.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Families were crammed into these incredibly dense neighborhoods right next to the mills. The housing was built fast and cheap.
We're talking about those back-to-back houses, right?
Yes, the design meant they had no back windows, so no ventilation. They were built in these long, dense rows, no running water inside.
And sanitation?
Awful. A whole street, maybe a dozen families or more, might share one outdoor toilet and a single water pump. It was a perfect system for spreading disease.
And the streets themselves were narrow, dark, filled with waste because there was no proper sewage system.
It got so bad that people were forced into desperate measures. We have records of families renting out cellars as homes.
Living underground.
Dark, damp holes with no fresh air or light. Just to be close enough to the factory for your 14-hour workday.
All that lack of sanitation and the industrial pollution, it must have created a public health emergency.
A constant one. The environment was a perfect breeding ground for disease.
What kind of diseases are we talking about?
Cholera, typhoid. These outbreaks would sweep through the city and kill thousands. Typhus was so common in the mill districts they called it factory fever.
And then there's the pollution.
Relentless. The smoke from the chimneys filled the air with soot, causing all sorts of breathing problems. And the rivers, the original power source, they basically became open sewers.
Full of chemicals from dye works and human waste.
And you can see the result in the data. Life expectancy in the poorest parts of Manchester was drastically lower than in the countryside, sometimes by 10 or 15 years.
It took them a long time to realize they had to fix it, didn't it?
Decades. But eventually the city authorities understood that public health and productivity were linked. They had to start building clean water and sewage systems.
And what about the daily life for a worker inside one of those mills?
It was punishing. A typical workday was 12 to 14 hours,
6 days a week.
6 days a week. Men, women, and children all worked those shifts just so the family could earn enough to survive.
And the conditions inside.
Horrific. The noise from hundreds of looms was deafening. It caused long-term hearing loss. The machines had unprotected moving parts, so accidents were common and devastating.
And the air itself was dangerous.
It was thick with cotton dust. It caused a chronic lung disease they called byssinosis, or brown lung.
And the supervisors were notoriously strict.
Very strict. Very few breaks, if any.
You mentioned children worked too.
Yes. And children were actually highly valued as workers. Their small size meant they could crawl underneath the huge machines
While they were still running.
while they were running to fix broken threads or clear out waste. It's a harsh truth, but the incredible progress of Cottonopolis was built on the backs of its most vulnerable workers.
So if you zoom out from the factory floor, what did all of this do to the structure of the city itself?
It created a really clear and visible separation of social classes. This wasn't just about changing how people worked, it created a whole new social hierarchy.
At the very top, you have the new factory owners and merchants, incredibly wealthy.
They held all the economic and political power, and they built these grand houses on the outskirts of the city, far away from the factory grime.
And in the middle,
A growing middle class, the clerks, managers, shopkeepers who kept the whole system running.
and then the largest group by far, the working class, living right by the mills, enduring all those conditions we just talked about.
Exactly. The city was a paradox. You have the skyline dominated by these functional brick mills and their chimneys, but at the same time, the wealthy were funding these grand, ornate public buildings.
Like a town hall.
Right. They built it in this intricate Gothic style with huge towers, almost to show off the city's success. And slowly, some modernization did arrive. Gaslighting started to appear on the main streets, making them a bit safer at night. A small step.
So Manchester is called the first industrial city because it really was the complete blueprint.
It was. The methods of mass production, the factory organization, the structure of urban labor, it was all copied and adapted by cities all over the world, from the US to Germany.
It proved that technology and transport could turn a small town into a global economic center.
It did. But it also proved how hard it is to manage that kind of change. The health crises and the dangerous working conditions in Manchester led directly to some of the first factory safety laws and public health practices. It influenced how we plan our cities even today.
It's the ultimate example of that tension. Rapid progress is almost always paired with huge human challenges.
The wealth of Cottonopolis was generated by a small group of people, but it was built on the incredible effort and suffering of so many others.
And that tension, that's something we still wrestle with today, isn't it? The tension between technological progress and making sure the benefits are shared fairly.
It's the same fundamental challenge, whether it's about factory conditions in 1840 or about managing automation and AI today.
Manchester's story just shows how fast the world can change and how that change always brings both incredible prosperity and profound challenges.
Good luck with your studies.